Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Gabriel Talks Football. I am operating from Studio 1A, and Greg Gabriel is operating from his constant studio, Studio A. How are you?
I'm here. I'm good.
What about that first round in yesterday's NFL draft? It was the most surreal kind of draft I've ever witnessed. Do you feel the same way?
Well, tell me why you say surreal.
So many trades. It was difficult to keep track of what player was going where. The drafting of who was the name of the offensive lineman who was projected as a day 3 pick on some boards.
Strange.
Yes.
I wanted the Bears to take him at 39.
Really? You like him?
Oh, he's a plug and play.
Wow.
No, that one did not surprise me at all. I thought he'd go in the second round, and I put it this way: not saying I hope that I wanted the Bears to have a chance to say no. Put it that way,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't. You look at the rest of the names, no real surprises. I thought more quarterbacks would go. Now that could be good because that means there could be some teams trying to move up. Tonight to try to get some of those guys, especially the quarterback needy teams. But in areas of Bears needs, there's a lot of wideouts there. Offensive line, there's only a couple that I'd really think about at 39, but I'm not, the guy's doing the picking. But I'll tell you what, the guy that's there that, some fans may not want, but people in Hallis Hall may want a lot, and that's Logan Hall, 3 technique from Houston. And in my opinion, probably the best 3 technique in this draft, if you discount Wyatt, because I don't know if he's really a pure 3 from Georgia. And so, if he's still there at 39, I think he enters the equation. There's probably, we don't know who the hell they are. There's probably a few players that they say we stay here for. And then and then the rest they say, okay, we're going to try to drop down. Now they're making those calls now. That's what they do now. They're just saying, hey, we might want to move. It just depends how far, because there's some quality there and you want to stay within the quality.
Mm-hmm. So from a process standpoint, what is happening to the best of your ability to speculate on this? What is happening to the Chicago Bears board now? Is it being adjusted because of the results of the first round? And does who NFC North teams drafted, does that impact the thinking at Hallis Hall?
Whatever the NFC, in my opinion, what other teams do has no impact at all. You got your own plan, and what you got no control over what the other teams do. Mm-hmm. So you don't worry about it, and you just go on with your business and go from there. They don't rearrange the board. Obviously, the guys taken come off the board, but there's going to be guys that kind of jump out at you. And even though they may not jump out to the Bears, they may jump out to some other teams. Mm-hmm. Quarterbacks maybe being one. There's some damn good receivers there. He had that run on receivers, and then it all of a sudden stopped.
Yeah.
The only surprise, we talked about was Strange, and that one didn't surprise me that much because I think he's a hell of a player. It just took an offensive lineman out of the equation for later on. But at the same time, Raymond's there from Central Michigan. Godeke from Central Michigan is there, except I don't think he's a second. He's more of a third. You got Parnham from Memphis is still there. Lucas from Washington State. Now, Lucas is that'd be a heck of a pick, offensive lineman pick. The only problem with Lucas is, athletically, he's as good as any tackle in this draft, any tackle in the last 2 drafts. Mm-hmm. His problem is that he's strictly played right tackle at the University of Washington, even though from an athletic standpoint, his bend, his length, and everything else, he can play the left side. He's just never done it.
Yeah. Here's a list that I stole from our friends over at ESPN.com. So you've got Raymond, Central Michigan. On the left are their projected tackles, and then on the right are their projected interior
Yeah.
offensive.
No, I think Goteke's a guard. He's got like 32.5-inch arms.
Mm-hmm.
And he's worked with Paul Alexander, who coached in the league for 25 years.
Uh-huh.
He's a good friend of mine. He's an excellent coach, and Paul thinks he's a guard too. And I think he can come in and start as a guard. He's a strong, tough guy who looks to finish. He's not a tackle in the NFL. He doesn't have the range that you want, but I think he can be a hell of a guard.
Okay. What about the kid from UCLA, Sean Ryan?
I got to do some work on him. I have not done 1 second of tape on him. That's part of my afternoon job. But Dylan Parham, shoot, I love that guy.
Yeah. And I love Darian Kennard. I'm not sure if he's worthy of a second-round pick, but the nasty streak on him, he's got some really good tape.
And he played tackle from a strength point, and I don't put a lot of emphasis into the bench, but his bench was low for a lineman coming out of college. But he worked with Duke Merriweather and some of those guys getting ready for the draft, and they really like him. So Ingram's an interesting guy too.
Mm-hmm.
And Ingram you're going to get in the third round or later, and he's a pure guard. I mean, he's a guy that come in and play guard for him right away. So there's guys there. The wide receiver, don't talk to me about Pickens, because Pickens has got a lot of issues, and I know for a fact there's teams that have him off their board. So
he could drop to the round 3, right?
I don't know about that. There's no question he's talented, and he's not a criminal. He's an a-hole, for lack of a better term, and self-entitlement, selfish. Put Anthony Miller all over again.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that you're looking at that same type of situation where you could fall in love with the talent, but then, oh my God, you could be in trouble now.
And so this stuff that you hear about Pickens is, you wouldn't be spreading that if it wasn't from reliable sources, right?
Oh, I called people around the league just to make sure.
Okay.
And then one guy I called, he said, well, he goes, I'll put it this way. He goes, if he goes to a strong head coach and a strong quarterback, he's got a chance. So right away I thought, well, Green Bay probably has that. So it wouldn't shock me if he ended up in Green Bay. Wouldn't shock me if he ended up in Kansas City, because Andy Reid has a way with dealing with those guys in success. Mm-hmm. But, is Justin Fields is going into his second year, and you got a rookie head coach. Is he ready for that? Mm-hmm. I don't think so.
Yeah. And of course, as we look down at the rest of this list, this one is from our friends over at DraftKings.com. Sky Moore, you mentioned, a youngster from Western Michigan. He's super fast. Looks like more of a slot receiver, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he could play outside. But you could put Pringle outside and put him in the slot. Christian Watson's outside. I mean, the guy I like at the top of that list is Eric Pierce. Or Alec Pierce. And there's just something about him. I like his game. I like the way he goes up and gets it. He's competitive as hell. Athletically, he's as good as anybody up there. He's a 4.40 guy. He jumps out of the building. He rises to the occasion when Cincinnati played better competition. I mean, what's there not to like? What scares you about Christian Watson is he had a lot of drops, number one, and then he played in that FCS level competition. But great athlete. I mean, the upside with Christian Watson is crazy. It's so high.
When you see a receiver have a lot of drops, how can you tell those are concentration drops, or they're just because the guy doesn't have good hands?
Well, when you look at see a guy make a lot of difficult catches, then you got to say it's concentration.
Okay. Of course,
Okay.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And then you're having, you know, a lot of these teams went in for private workouts and stuff, and you're going to throw a guy a ton of balls and find out what his hands are there. Some of these little guys like Calvin Austin, I mean, interesting guy, and he can run real good, but you know, just look at what Green Bay's had, and that's the offense they're running here, or something similar, and that's the type of receiver they had. The big receivers, so I don't see a guy like Calvin Austin being in the equation, and Michi's coming off an ACL. You know, are the Bears going to fool around with something like that when he's not going to be ready to play at the beginning of the season? I don't think so. I'll tell you, Jalen Tolbert now, that's the guy I take. Wendell Robertson is another smaller guy, is a pure slot. Doesn't have great speed. Shakir is interesting. Got really good hands. The thing that bothers me, and I'm always big on this, he's got damn short arms. He's got like 29-inch arms, and he's 6 feet tall. Wow. But after the catch, guy's really, really good. So it wouldn't surprise me. Justin Ross, too damn slow. And the same with David Bell. So now David Bell, I think David Bell's going to be there in the 5th round myself.
5th round? Holy
he ran too slow.
But the tape on him is just incredible, and the character is outstanding. A team leader. He's got all of these good things.
And then it's a stopwatch-driven position, and he ran 4.7.
But remember the story about Jerry Rice?
Jerry Rice ran 4.57.
Where?
For Jerry Angelo about a week and a half before the draft, and then he ran 4.59 too. Don't forget that was the very first combine, and they ran on grass in the rain. Okay, so you know I don't want to hear stories about Jerry. Did you ever see Jerry Rice get caught from behind?
Never. No, I wish.
But Jerry was working in New York with me, and he went down and Jerry Rice lived in Starkburg, where Mississippi State is. So he was always at the Mississippi State campus and working out there a lot. And Jerry went in there and worked him out and got him a 4.57 on grass. And grass is the slowest surface. And again, this is a 1984 or 1985 draft. So it was, you didn't have pro days like you have now. You call up a kid and say, I'm going to be there tomorrow.
That's awesome. The good old days. Let's take a look at the list of available defensive backs. On the left, it's projected cornerbacks. On the right, it's projected safeties. And again, this is from our friends at ESPN. What are you hearing about Andrew Booth Jr. over at Clemson?
Misses a lot of practice time. I'm not sure the surgery date, but the one date I saw was just a week ago where he had double hernia surgery. So how long is he going to be out? Who knows? And, the doctors will know that, but we don't know. Right now, when you look at that group, Kyler Gordon stands out. There's a lot of people that like Taylor Britt. I'm not even going to go into McCreary. I think he's strictly a slot corner. Some of our people like him. I hope another team takes him. So watch the Bears will take him. Wooden is a big, tall, 6'3" and a half press corner guy. The problem when you see guys like Zion McCollum and Wooden, they're very talented guys, but they're predominantly press cover guys that you don't see in zone, you don't see in off. So you're really kind of guessing if they can do it. Doesn't mean they can't, and do it at a high level. Marcus Jones is 5'8", so I can't see the Bears taking a 5'8" corner, and he's 5'8" when he might be standing on his tiptoes.
Jordan says he's going to be living in your mentions, pestering you if McCreary ends up with the Bears.
Knowing the profile that they had for corners at the Colts, I just don't see it happening. But who knows? I mean, and like I say, he's got to be a slot corner in the NFL, and the Bears already signed their slot corner. Now, if he's there in the third round, it's a different story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because then there's some value involved. I just wouldn't touch him in the second round.
He does have great tape. What do you feel the same about Marcus Jones? Even though his arm length is longer than McCreary, but he is diminutive.
Still only 5'8".
Yeah, I think that's what diminutive means. Although I didn't pronounce it well.
He's just, you know, this ain't a peanut eating contest here, you know, or eat peanuts off a guy's head. This is the National Football League. He's 5'8". He's got a guy, you know, cover guy 6'4". Hey, somebody may love him,
Mm-hmm.
not me. I don't. You never get me to take a guy like that ever. We took my time here. We took one corner under 5'10", and that was late. Kid from Mississippi, and I can't think of his last name. He played a few years. He's like
5'9.5". Anybody else on this list? Flott, McCollum?
I don't. No, I like McCollum, except he's, you know, a dominant FCS level player and a great athlete. He might be the best athlete up there.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem, it's like I said, with him and Woolen from UT San Antonio, is that they're predominantly press cover guys. So you don't have an answer on you know, I would think they're guys that you got to go in and work out, and the Bears probably have done that to get a feel for what they can do when their knowledge is zone and off and man off coverage, because that's things they got to do in the NFL. If they can do that, these guys are, you know, could they go in the second? Yeah, probably more apt to go in the third, but it wouldn't shock me that in the second half of the second round, you're going to see those guys come off the board.
Yesterday on NFL Network, a lot of people were talking about Jalen Petrie, the safety out of Baylor, and that he could potentially be a round one pick because he was going up on so many boards. Now, every time they say he's going up on boards, I'm thinking to myself,
whose boards?
Yeah, whose boards? And really,
well, wasn't that an NFL board because he's still sitting there?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so that stuff cracks me up when I hear that stuff, because it's you know, it's a draft next board. It's not an NFL board. If he was that high on an NFL board, he would have gotten drafted yesterday.
Right, and he would have probably have been high up on the board weeks ago. It's not like a few days ago they decided to move him from a third round to a first round prospect.
That does not happen. What happens is the draft analysts find out that, oh, this guy's rated a little higher than I really had him. You know, they find it out that way. So then they start thinking, well, maybe he's going to go in the first. But you look at the other guys as compared to who number one, he's a safety. Now, Kyle Hamilton's a great safety, but he went, you know, was 14 before he came off the board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Kyle, I read yesterday that he had over 200 snaps at the slot position while he was at Notre Dame, and so
right. No, he's got corner. I mean, what killed him is his speed. He would have been a top 10 pick if he had run better. But he plays fast, and his tape is excellent. And you see him playing man-to-man in the slot, and he does a great job. He doesn't get beat.
Yeah. Any of these other safeties look intriguing to you?
I didn't spend a lot of time on the safety. I don't see safety being as big a need as a lot of fans do. They signed that guy from Tennessee who was going to be a starter. And Eddie Jackson's going to be a starter. And they got Houston Carson, and he's going to be your third safety. Mm-hmm. So I don't see it as much of a need. It might be a late pick tomorrow, but I can't see it going on today. Yeah, and we'll get into, tomorrow morning we're doing another show, so we'll get into that tomorrow.
Yeah, you and Danny Shimon feel the same thing about the safety position. And Danny even says that he thinks Houston Carson deserves a shot at the starting role.
And he may. I just know there's one when I watched tape of the guy they signed, and I can't even remember. Crookshank.
Yeah.
He's pretty damn good.
He's good. He's only started 4 games in his 4-year career.
Yeah, but he's played a lot. He's played a lot of snaps, and he was their dime guy. So he ended up being locked up man-to-man coverage on tight ends a lot.
Yeah,
and his history against some of the best tight ends in this league is excellent.
Yeah, he strikes me as a guy who is just starting to blossom and really could.
Yeah, he's a late bloomer.
Yeah, late bloomer. So going into today at the pick 39, do you have a favorite right now? If let's say 39 was really number one in the second round, who would you pick for the Bears?
Well, he's gone. the favorite, that Tyler Smith is that would have been a guy that I would have said I'm not trading down for him. You know, I think you got a defensive coach, head coach, and you've got a lineman for a general manager and a lineman for an assistant general manager, even though they're offensive linemen. I can just see him pulling the trigger on Logan Hall if he in fact is there at 39. Now maybe not. Maybe they don't like him as they signed Jones and they've got Edwards, and maybe they're saying, you know what, we're going to be fine there. So I'm in the wait and see mode. I think if a couple quarterbacks go, you got to hope that a couple quarterbacks go in these first 5 or 6 picks before the Bears are on the clock, and that will give them a much stronger opportunity to trade down, because then what they're looking at is pretty good, and you can trade down 4 or 5 slots, get a 4th round pick, and still end up with a real good player.
Great question from Jeremy. You just touched on Logan Hall. He asked the hypothetical: if Pierce, Logan Hall, and Bernhard Raimann are there, who would you pick? And you had Raimann slotted as a late first rounder.
Yeah, it's a good question. I love Raimann, probably Raimann. Just Raimann or Logan Hall. As much as I love Pierce, there's more depth at that position. So I know I can get but Raimann can come in and he's going to play left tackle. That means you got to do something with Borum, and that means Borum probably goes to right guard.
You have talked before about this was leading up to today. Phone calls were being made to Hallasaw and from Hallasaw about potential trades. Hey, if our guy, you phrased it brilliantly. So there are all these potential scenarios on a what if trade. Are there phone calls going on today now?
Oh yeah. You're still advertising, and then and there might even be something serious to the point. You know what? Somebody's calling up and saying, we really want that pick. We think there's going to be the guy we want is going to be there. So we'll try to get that pick. Could it conceivably happen? Yes. I just, like I said earlier, the Bears might have a couple guys where they're saying there's no way we're trading out if that guy's here. So but we don't know the answer to that. So I think all options are open.
Outstanding. Outside of cornerback, wide receiver, and offensive line, would you be surprised? Well, defensive line we've talked about because of Logan Hall's.
But there's only a few. You got the Leo kid from Texas A&M. I am not a Winfrey fan. I think there's only a few guys that are pure 3 techniques. Now there's defensive linemen that can end up playing it, but how good are they going to be? Or you can find an end that you can bulk up. And that's been done in this defense. You get an end. The guy I like, down the road as a free agent or a real late pick is Myron Tuyas. I can't say his last name. Tuiasopo Amosa from Notre Dame.
Yeah. He looks like a really great mid or early third day candidate, right?
I'd say probably a late third day candidate. But, he played inside in 2020, played outside at the strong side end in 2021, dropped about 20 pounds. I think you get him back to about 285 with his initial quickness. He'd be a heck of a 3 to play in the rotation.
Tunga Vialoa. Thank you, Jordan, on that. Some people say Tunga, some people say Tua. We're not.
Well, he's Tua Tagovailoa's cousin.
That's right. That's right. I forgot about that. Let's see what we got here from Michael Ibsen. Word on the street is that Greg confirmed some of the concerns surrounding George Pickens. Were they large enough to keep him off the board? Yeah. So
I know for a fact he's off some teams' boards. I've been flat out told by 2 teams he's not on their board. Okay. I have no idea if he's on Chicago's board or not.
And if a guy like Pickens were to dramatically, and this is not going to happen, but if he were to dramatically fall to day 3, are you then thinking, well, maybe we can work with them? We've got strong leadership in the locker room and the coaching staff. Would you take a chance on a guy like that?
Well, then it becomes risk reward. You got you've got the talent value against where you're taking them. These guys you get today, they have to contribute, and you can't have problems. Okay, now you're talking tomorrow, it's a different ball game. And as we sit right now, they don't even have a 4th.
That's right. So got any guesses on the possibility of trading one of the picks in round 2 to load up on draft picks?
I like I say, I think if we can get even one quarterback, but hopefully 2 quarterbacks go in the top 4 or 5, I think it's almost a lock that he trades down.
Right. Were you surprised that the Steelers selected a quarterback after signing Mitchell Trubisky?
No, that's a local kid. Let me tell you something about the setup they got at Pitt and the Steelers. It's the same building. They practice at the same spot. There's an indoor facility and 4 practice fields, grass practice fields. 2 belong to the Steelers, 2 belong to Pitt. The building is an enormous building. The right side of the building, as you're facing it, is the University of Pittsburgh side. The left side of the building is the Steelers side. They share the same cafeteria. They've been around this guy forever. So if they don't know him, they don't know anybody.
Exactly. They probably know him better than Mason Rudolph.
Right.
What do you think about Lovey's pick of a cornerback?
I heard that a couple days ago. That was the guy, and it doesn't shock me at all.
He's quite the player.
I was a little surprised at the offensive lineman they took. More of an inside guy, and he's a good player. I just think, at that point, you take a tackle first, not a guard. Unless they think they can play him outside.
Yeah. Detroit Lions, I thought, did very well yesterday. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the team that did the best is the Jets.
The Jets, yeah. Both New York teams did pretty well, but yeah, the Jets did a nice job. They're really surrounding their young BYU quarterback with some weapons and protection. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, well, I sent Rex Hogan, who was on my staff here, and he's the assistant GM there. I sent him a text at the end of the first round. I said, "What'd you do? Sell your soul to the devil?" He said, "How many times?"
That is great. Any other surprises in the draft? Were you surprised that the Packers didn't trade up to pick up one of those wide receivers that were coveted?
Oh, I guarantee you, Aaron Rodgers is pissed off today. Isn't that lovely?
I love it too.
They take two defensive players, and they still got that receiver need. I love it.
It's so funny because there were reports that he has had meetings with the general manager and shared his thoughts about what the team's needs and so forth. I have a really big feeling that Aaron Rodgers never said, "Yeah, we need to work on the defensive side of the ball." That is great.
Goody, I know Brian really well, and I guarantee anything Aaron Rodgers says go in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
Players are not scouts.
Yeah, that's right.
And they're not evaluators. They're they're good at what they do, but till they take the time to get into now, there's some ex-players that become great scouts. But while they're playing, different story.
Yeah, I mean, you got to put a lot of work into it, and so, but it is good to get their opinions in terms of what they feel they may need around them. Like for instance, you want to hear from Rodgers and say how badly do you want this position player, and what type of position player do you like? Do you see value in that, particularly with a veteran, right?
Yeah, but I just don't. They have their board set up, and they weren't going to drop down in value.
Yeah.
And I think take to take a wide receiver.
Yeah, I believe Rodgers said that in an interview with someone that Rodgers, I'm paraphrasing here, said that I was told that the value for a wide receiver wasn't there with our late picks, but there was no mention about why not the.
They'll probably take one today.
Yeah. Oh, I'd bank on that.
Yeah.
You think Pickens to Green Bay, would that surprise you?
It wouldn't surprise me, because that's that you got the strong quarterback and you got a pretty strong head coach. It wouldn't surprise me to the Colts either, because you got a veteran and Matt Ryan and Frank Wright's a strong coach, but that could happen. They have a need. They have a strong need. Yeah. They got to get a young quarterback too. I don't know if he thinks he's got to do it in the second round. They picked like 42 or 43, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Somebody in the chat room a minute ago asked, do you think that the Bucs might try to draft a quarterback to find Brady's heir apparent?
Well, they took that guy from Florida last year in the second round. I don't like him myself.
Oh, really?
You can have him. No, I didn't like him then. I don't like him now. So, and Arians isn't there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So but I don't know what the thinking is. He didn't play a whole lot, in the preseason. So we'll see. What they do today could tell you a little bit.
Mm. Yeah, well, you say Arians isn't there, but apparently he is there and has.
Well, yeah, but right.
I don't think anybody's listening to him, frankly. All right. Any other thoughts you want to share with us? And I'll ask people in the chat room. If you want to get a question, get it in quickly, because we're doing a short one today.
Yep. Short one today, and then we got another one tomorrow.
Yes, indeed.
9 o'clock, right?
9 a.m. Correcto. I'm looking forward to that, because by then we will know exactly what this team is planning.
Well, we can critique what they took.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not one to say, well, why'd they take this guy? Because they have so much more information than any of us, especially in the character thing. I mean, I've got some good connections, and I can find out. And that's how I found out about Pickens, because I made calls to find out. And then, there was that article in The Athletic that kind of verified it. But that was anonymous, and a lot of the sources were coaches, and coaches aren't always, this time of year, coaches aren't always the best sources. Mm-hmm. There's some coaches that are excellent evaluators. There's some that just don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm. I want to address a few things here in the chat room. A lot of people have been talking about Pickens and not really satisfied about him being taken off the board for the Bears. And you're not saying the Bears took him off the board. You're saying you've heard teams taking Pickens off the board. B. Minor is saying, Gabriel is saying our coaching staff at the Bears is soft and can't handle Pickens.
I didn't say that. I said, is that what you want, a new head coach and a second-year quarterback? Mm-hmm. Now, the quote made to me by a general manager in this league was, if you got a real strong head coach and a real strong quarterback, it might be able to work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we don't know. We got a brand new coach. He's probably real strong, but he's still a brand new coach. It's his rookie year. And he got a second-year quarterback that's just going to – I don't care what people think about Pickens. The guy is not the right fit for this situation. You saw what you had in Anthony Miller that they traded up to get in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
When guys are head cases, when they're selfish, when they have an entitlement attitude, they become a cancer in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
So if people want them, fine, go take them for another team.
Mm-hmm. You've been
Now, they could very well take them. They might not have the same information I got,
right.
But everybody I talk to says the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and if you're trying to build a new culture within the team, then you don't want to acquire players who could be disruptive of developing that culture.
Yeah, and DJ last night on the NFL Network telecast, he alerted to. He said, there's some maturity problems, and that's just a nice way of saying he's an a-hole.
Okay. Alfred Smith says, "Do you think the Bears will get a wide receiver in the second round?"
I would think so, but ask me in about 10 hours.
Now, you've been adamant that the Bears have to draft a cornerback today.
No, second or third round, right, today.
Right.
I am adamant, and I only come off of that on one thing. After last week's minicamp, if the coaching staff, now they had 1-on-1s, 7-on-7, stuff like that. Coaching staff said, these guys are going to be okay. But they're not going to tell us. And do you think they're going to tell the media that, to avert their plans? Like a lot of people, I always follow Buffalo because I'm from Buffalo. Mm-hmm. And a lot of their media all had them taking that running back from Iowa State. Mm-hmm. And I had said to some guys, they're taking a corner. Why do you say that? I said they have one corner, Tre'Davious White. They lost Wallace in free agency to the Steelers. Mm-hmm. They got to have a proven corner at the other side across from White. And White's coming off an ACL. So what did they take? They traded up and took a corner.
There you go. Yeah.
It's one of the most important positions you can have on a football team.
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
But they have to be able to do what you want them to do within the framework of your defense.
Right.
So, their skill set is very, very important. There might be some guys that are very good, but they can't do what Flus wants them to do within this scheme. Mm-hmm. But I think some of these, but I think some of these press cover guys will be fine if they're smart enough, because he likes to play a lot of press.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have to tell you who's asking this question. Would Greg be okay with McCreary in the third round?
We already talked about it.
I know. You'd be fine with him in the third round.
I still wouldn't be fine. You still got Alligator playing, trying to cover a guy with long. That's my personal taste.
Right.
And there's certain things that I won't give into. When I get into situations like this. Now, granted, I'm not making the pick. I just, I don't like things like that. Mm-hmm. I want the traits to be there. Mm-hmm. And right now, he would have the shortest arms of any corner in the National Football League, bar none.
Back to the topic of Pickens, more opinions and thoughts on him. People are saying that it appears that Justin Fields has a positive relationship with Pickens. They interact with each other a lot on social media. They appear to know each other. If Justin Fields, and we talked about this regarding Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Rodgers, making a request. But if your young quarterback said, hey, by the way, I just want to let you know, if you draft George Pickens, I'd be a happy guy. Is that? Do you think Fields at this point in his career has a little bit of influence?
Yeah. When you know somebody, it has some influence. Mm-hmm. Because we always ask players on our team about their teammates from their school for like the next year.
Sure.
Tell me about this guy. What do you know? And more often than not, they're gonna tell you the truth. Mm-hmm. They're gonna say, stay away, or no, I'd really like this guy. Mm-hmm. Because they know what they're getting into. So if you got a quarterback and receiver, you think they have a pretty good relationship, even though the two really didn't play together. Mm-hmm. They might have been there 1 year together,
Yeah.
I think, and that's it. But so you've got some sort of relationship there, but it's going to get down to, this is a Ryan Poles decision.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I know for a fact a few teams have him off their board. Does that mean the Bears have him off their board? No.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, what has come out. And I'll be honest, I had heard some of this stuff. And I thought, well, a lot of stuff that gets public might not always be true. So then when The Athletic came out, or not The Athletic, yeah, it was The Athletic, Bruce Feldman writes that article, and he's got like 5 sources that just killed the kid.
Mm-hmm.
And but obviously nobody named. So then I started making calls. I said, is this accurate? I said, yep.
Very interesting. I've been getting a lot of DMs and texts, and I see it in the chat, trade down, accumulate more picks. At what point do you have to start to be a little concerned about trading down because the quality of players becomes more of a potential miss than a potential hit? I mean, somebody sent me a mock draft trade where they traded with the 39th pick to the Kansas City Chiefs and got 4 picks back. Would that make sense to accumulate a bunch of 4 day 3 type picks for your number 39?
No. Okay. You still got to get quality. I've always done it. My experience with this is you're drawing a line in the sand. This is where the drop off of the talent is. We can trade back X amount of spots. Mm-hmm. From 39 and still get quality. And that was more solidified after you got done with the first round. Mm-hmm. Because exactly who you're looking at.
Right.
Right now, where, yesterday you were guessing. Now And the same thing with 48. You could say, okay, I'm going to trade down a little bit for 48. That's still the top half of the second round pick. So you could trade down a little bit later into that second round, and you got that next clump of players. And you want to stay within that range, so you don't want to go too far.
Okay. Doug Dyer wants to know about Jarvis Landry. Do you think the Bears should sign him? I would probably think not, given that he's asking for like $20 million.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the receivers. They said no to in free agency because of the money. Why are they going to give it to Jarvis Landry?
Mm-hmm. I'd hate for him to go. I would hate for Landry to go to Green Bay. It appears they have the money under the cap now with that restructuring of deals and the trading.
It wouldn't bother me if he went to Green Bay. He can't run.
Yeah,
he's a good route runner. He's a possession receiver. Mm-hmm. I don't think he fits that offense that well. But if they get stuck, they might.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that you said that. The decisions made by the NFC North teams don't impact the thinking at all. Did you phrase it that way at all about what the Bears might do?
I've never gone into a draft and worried about you. You know what is, Aldo? You can't control that.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Right.
So am I going to change my whole draft plan because Detroit took so and so, or Green Bay took so and so?
Right.
No, you got to take care of your team first.
Right.
And then you take care of them next fall.
Right. Well, when the Packers went defense and defensive line, I immediately thought, well, this almost ensures you've got to land a really good tackle in this second round because you want that depth in the offensive line.
Okay, but I'm going to say this.
Okay.
What did they try to do in free agency?
Defensive line.
No, yes, but I mean, what the Bears try to do? They failed because the offer sheet. But he was an interior offensive lineman.
Oh yeah. I get you with Bates. Yeah.
Right. He was a guard.
Yeah.
He's going to line up and start at right guard. That's why when I see like the go to Key from Central Michigan, that guy's a right guard. Mm-hmm. Parham from Memphis, that guy's a right guard. Mm-hmm. Strange was a right guard. That's what I liked about it. And he had the versatility to play center and guard. Mm-hmm. So those are guys. This guy from UCLA, I got to do him. That's just one guy I just never got around to doing. So I'll do him this afternoon. But and I like Petit Ferrer, but he's just not consistent. He played right tackle in 2020, left tackle in 21. He looked better on the right side.
Yeah, I mean, I think just about 95% of the people on these lists for offensive linemen are guys that need some development. They're not necessarily guys that you can say definitely will start day one, game one. Perhaps Bernard Raymond, but even him with all his great athletic skills, he needs some development time.
Well, I think he's ready to start myself watching him play, especially, he played against, there was 2 plays I saw against Missouri that I didn't like, but he always came back strong from those. And Jordan said, Godekey's your guy. Jordan, I agree with you there. Godekey is a bulldog, and he could step in and play right guard. And I trust Paul Alexander, and Paul really, really likes him.
Good. All right. You said also that you got a couple of questions regarding safeties, but you said you were going to look at safeties right after this. So we'll.
No, I'm going to look at. I'm going to look at that lineman. I just don't see him taking a safety. If they take a safety, then I'll look at him.
Okay.
I just don't see it. I could be totally wrong. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah. But in maybe one of our summer shows, we'll have a discussion, a theoretical discussion about the safety position, because I do feel that it is evolving. And by the way, Jacques Brisker, Jordan loves him because he says he could be Adrian Amos part 2.
Well, that's a possibility. Brisker's a pretty good player.
Yeah, I miss Adrian Amos. I'll tell you that. By the way, last question. Do you think that the departure of Adrian Amos had anything to do with the inconsistencies of Eddie Jackson?
It's a good question, and it very well could have. But I think just the changes you had basically after Fangio leaves, Eddie's game goes downhill. And so I just have a strong feeling that he's going to come back this year within this scheme. This scheme really fits some of his skill set.
Well, if he doesn't come back, it could cost him millions of dollars, because he may not land that big fat contract for the remaining.
He already has a big fat contract.
Yeah, but he wants to duplicate that deal for the latter part of the second half of his career.
Yeah. He's got enough to live on, though. I wouldn't cry about it.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm not crying. Trust me. I'm begging. I think he needs to be locked in the weight room. Yeah, that among other things. Sometimes when you hear Eddie Jackson talk, he doesn't talk like he's a guy that really wants to get in there and do some tackling. But there are. You've pointed out that he does a great job as the quarterback of that defensive backfield, and that sometimes is overlooked by us fans.
And there's moments when he comes in and knocks the hell out of you too. You just don't see it on a consistent basis.
Yeah. And sometimes you see those swings and misses, and that's really frustrating.
Well, you know what? That's one of my pet peeves in the National Football League is the tackling sucks because you don't practice it.
Yeah.
Nobody practices it, and you got to hit and wrap. You got 2 arms here. Wrap those suckers around the guy you're hitting. Too many people try to go for the knockout punch, and they hit the guy. But, a lot of these guys, these running backs and receivers are pretty strong in the lower body, and they're going to break those tackles.
Right. Yep. That's actually one of the things that I worry about Dane Cruikshank, the new safety for the Bears, is that he is a heat-seeking missile, but sometimes guys like that do miss tackles. We'll be taking a close eye on him during camp. Greg, great job. You and I will be back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. We'll evaluate
a little critique session and see what's left on the board. And we'll also, if they traded down and picked up a fourth or something like that, we'll know that, and then you'll have a pick, right off the bat come tomorrow instead of having to wait for the 5th round.
Yeah. People are saying that I need to get back into my cave. I definitely look like I need sunlight is what I look like. Look at how white I look. Jeez. I need to get out.
Why is your problem at the house? Is that why you're not downstairs?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because the furnace is right by my studio downstairs. And so there's somebody working on it right there. And so we didn't want to hear clanking and all that stuff.
It has some good background music.
Yeah, I like it, but a lot of people think it's got to go. Jordan likes it, so I got that seal of approval. All right, my man, Greg, you are outstanding as always. I will see you tomorrow morning. Enjoy the draft. By the way, do you sip on something while you're watching the draft? A little glass of wine, a little bourbon?
No, I usually don't. Didn't last night. I had just water.
All right. Well,
I got a way, and I can't tell it. I got a way of getting the picks a little early. If you follow my Twitter, I was putting them out about 30 seconds, sometimes a minute before they actually did. And I don't know if that's going to be the case tonight, but because picks are, you go down to the second round can last a long time. You go down to 7 minutes. Right. But sometimes people take that whole 7 because you got a lot of trades in the second round. Well, you get into the third round, they're rapid fire now.
Yeah. Well, and we did a show last night, and so I was trying to load that lower third crawl with the names of players, and then I realized that you were tweeting out, at least 2, 3, 4 minutes before it was announced. And I'm saying, I'm just going to keep looking at Greg and get the names in. So please do that again. It will help me out.
Well, if I can, I will.
And by the way, Danny and Danny and Neo Stopchinski will be on tonight to discuss the Bears picks as soon as they happen. And Jordan is going to be making an appearance on a Packers podcast and provide them with analysis of the Bears picks. And so I'll get that all of that information out on Twitter and Facebook, Barroom Network. Again, Greg, thanks very much. We'll see you tomorrow.
Okay. See you later.
Bye-bye.